Kevin Kusha, fierceandmighty.com, relentlessly push yourself forward. So I was thinking a little bit last night during my yoga class, and I've been going to yoga, I don't know, for a few months now. And as I was getting ready to actually start class, I was talking with a few of the other people in the class about how yoga is a bit of a challenge for me, not just from a physical standpoint, although it certainly is. You know, somebody who's like myself is traditionally just big into lifting weights or running sprints or doing stuff like that. Yoga is a very different sort of experience physically. But the biggest challenge for me in a lot of ways is actually more the mental challenge. Because what I find about that particular style of exercise or lifestyle, whatever you really want to call it, so unbelievably challenged from a mental standpoint is the fact that you're supposed to be in there and just trying to do what it is that you can do, and you don't really compare yourself to what everybody else can do, and it's really just about your own personal advancement. Now, the problem with that is that deep down, kind of in the core of me, I have a bit of a wicked competitive streak. Now, for the most part, I really only kind of self-direct that in other ways, but I do sort of, notice what other people might be doing in the class. As terrible as it sounds, right? I mean, if I see other guys in the class, because there are men that do yoga at the same classes I go to, who are way better at it than me, then that kind of gets on my nerves a little bit. Doesn't matter if they've been doing it for years. Doesn't matter if they go 4 or 5 times a week, where I only go twice a week and I've only been doing it a few months. That's a little bit of the internal wrestling that I go on with, about the fact of, are they better than me? Should I be okay with that, not okay with that? And I think in some ways it can be healthy, right? It can sort of push me to try to go past points that I normally could. But I think the challenging part about it, and what really got me thinking about doing this video, was the entire motto that I have for this website, and I repeat it in these videos, and it's on the top of the site, is relentlessly push yourself forward. And I sometimes wonder if what I do in yoga is a little bit of the opposite of that. Now, in some ways, I think I'm trying to push myself by trying to get myself to do something I normally wouldn't do, wouldn't normally feel comfortable doing, but trying to do anyway. And truthfully, I like it a lot and I get a lot of benefit out of it. But at the same time, there is a very inherent piece of yoga, at least I find for myself, that is about accepting the place that you're in. And that's not really necessarily a relentlessly push yourself forward. Like, I mean, when you go and you lift weights, right, you can just go balls to the wall, push yourself, grind it out, fire up the music even louder, throw back more caffeine, borderline smash your head against the bar, which a lot of lifters do. And then just dig down and get at it, right? Just go after it, throw everything in it, SFW. You have to look that one up because I'm not going to say exactly what that means on video. And just go at it. That's not yoga, right? I mean, the harder you push yourself in some ways in yoga beyond really what you're capable of doing, you don't necessarily get any farther. And it's almost sort of that letting go, that releasing, I think that really makes you kind of come to a better place in your yoga and get better at it, really, for lack of a better way of putting it. So that's what I'm finding interesting about doing this yoga. That interesting juxtaposition between the fact that it is all about an acceptance. It is all about, being comfortable with the point at which you're at. It's all about sort of, clearing your head and just being very present in the moment, versus some of the other things I think I tended to do when I lift, which is, just push, right? The whole relentlessly push yourself forward. And that's what I'm kind of wrestling with right now. But I find it to be a very interesting dichotomy between the two things of, how do I settle both those things? I think in the end, I think what I've come to settle on is that I think they actually work much more harmoniously than I would normally anticipate. And I think that's because you do need to have that balance. And as much as I relentlessly push myself forward, there is something to be said about also finding the time to sort of clear my mind out. What's that great line from the movie For Love of the Game with Kevin Costner, right? Clear the mechanism. And that's great. It's actually funny. I find that it's actually carrying over into my lifting to a certain extent, and that I'm getting better at it. but I don't have to find myself getting so hyped up in order to do well. In fact, if I come to myself with a certain amount of stillness and clear things, I actually do better. So I guess that's the point of this video, if there really is a point at all, that at some inherent level, that the pushing kind of is taken on a new dimension to it, and it's sort of pushing myself now to the point of accepting an uncomfortable place I'm not used to being in. Going to a yoga class where I'm by far, in pretty much every class I've been to, the worst one in the class, and actually being okay with that, because that's really the way that I'm pushing myself, and that's the way I'm getting myself to be better about it, and that's really where I'm getting advancement out of it. So even in an area where you're giving up sort of to an extent and releasing and sort of taking your mind out of things and just really becoming one in the moment is a completely different sense of pushing yourself forward. And I think that's what I've really liked about yoga. That and the fact that my hips and back feel great. I'm generally much more even keeled and relaxed from doing it. Um, and I enjoy that because I tend to be sort of an all or nothing kind of person. So trying to find that really comfortable midway point has been a good thing. So something to think about, that maybe in the same moments that you might find that you normally would be fighting things and not comfortable with sort of letting go and sort of finding that stillness in the moment, that the struggle to get to that point, of that stillness and that calm and that feeling of serenity is your own way of relentlessly pushing yourself forward. It could just take on a lot of different guises. So hopefully that gives you a little something to think about as I sit here and sort of relax for the evening. It's just something that was on my mind I felt like sharing. So hopefully it's something that gets things thinking for you as well, and maybe trying to find a spot in your own life where there's a point at which you can sort of more release as opposed to push. And in some ways that is pushing yourself forward. So again, Kevin Kuja, fierceandmighty.com. Relentlessly push yourself forward. Have a nice night.